fire them up. That's what we do at the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up right here on 1039 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble, where we are streaming on X, where we are streaming on YouTube. No one cares about Facebook, and we're streaming at WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 1039 WYAB, help us build the station, grow the channel. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a Democrat. Get the word out. Follow me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Lots to go over today, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to go over today. Phone line is down, but the text line is open. 601-879-5060. 601-879-5060. Not sure what's going on with the phones. Tried to get it working. Just didn't get it able to go. So sorry about that. Look, it doesn't matter if the phone lines are up, the phone lines are down. One thing remains the same at the Andrew Gosser Show, and that is the mission is standard. The mission at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. We got a triple header today. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat of its fruits. And a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. Ladies and gentlemen, this just broke, coming from WLBT. The official autopsy in the death of Nolan Wells is complete, according to officials familiar with the investigation. Results from the state medical examiner's office have not been made public and will now be sent to a grand jury. So they haven't released the report. They say that they got the autopsy report back, which is great news because all of the instigation that's been being perpetrated on us, the society in Mississippi, by a certain group of individuals is not helping us grow. It's not helping us heal. We're supposed to be a high trust society, and we are seeing the fall of Western civilization everywhere you look. And far be it from me to go to the Mississippi Free Press, but this is a see I told you so. And it just seems to me that there are more people out there trying to capitalize off of the death of young black men and women instead of trying to actually heal our society. We all know that the specter of racism hovers over Mississippi, despite us trying to overcome it, despite all the great things that we've done to overcome it. It hovers. And there are demons out there that continue to try to make us go ahead and live under this specter. Now, again, gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. I am just going to read the Mississippi Free Press. This isn't me editorializing on what I think, but I've had some really harsh words for the Irreverend Al Sharpton and attorney Ben Crumb. And sometimes, because coming from somebody who might not look like you, you might dismiss it or push it away. But this is the Mississippi Free Press. And what I'm saying, there is a trend item here, a pattern of behavior. It continues to repeat itself over and over again. And every once in a while, the matrix glitches. And all of a sudden, the truth comes out. Trey Reed, the young gentleman who hung himself, Trey Reed's family says Ben Crumb never shared final independent autopsy results, stopped responding. Again, this is at the Mississippi Free Press, and I'll put this on X when I get done. Nearly a year after a group of Delta State University football players found 21-year-old student Trey Reed hanging from a tree on campus, his family says that the attorney who vowed to a full investigation in the early days has not spoken to them in 7 months. He also never gave them the final results of an independent autopsy he promised. Who is that attorney? The discovery of a young black man hanging on a tree on September 15th, 2025 made national news, raising the specter of Mississippi's history of racist lynchings. Ben Crumb, a nationally renowned civil rights lawyer who helped secure $27 million of settlement money for the family of George Floyd, came to the family's aid and cast doubt on the state's autopsy official ruling that Reed's death was a suicide. He helped the family secure an independent autopsy with funding from former NFL athlete Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights Camp Autopsy Initiative. I'm sitting here reading this for like the fourth time now, and it's still wrapping my head around it. There's a pattern of behavior here, and it's not that just one group of people is falling for it and another group isn't. We're all falling for it. And listen, if you could just repeat one or remove one person's name and put in another person's name, and the story writes itself. Trey's death evoked the collective memory of community that has suffered a historic wound over many, 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 many years and many deaths, Crum said in a statement on September 19th, 2025. Peace will only come by getting to the truth. We thank Colin Kaepernick for supporting his grieving family and the cause of justice and truth. But more than 10 months later, Reed's family members say they feel like they've been abandoned by the advocates who pledged to stand by their side, the lawyers and the institutions that first spoke up on their behalf when Reed's death was national news. Well, of course. It's how this works. We're supposed to be a high trust society. We're supposed to be a Christian nation. We're supposed to love thy neighbor like we love ourselves. But we don't do that. And I'm not sitting here trying to pour gasoline on a fire. I'm just simply reading what the Mississippi Free Press said. And as we find out more and more about Mr. Nolan Wells, the truth will come out. And what I'm saying is whenever we get these national figures coming into Mississippi to try to raise hell, cause a disturbance, roil up anger, instill fear, perpetuate doubt, we have to call it for what it is. And this is not me saying, "See, I told you so." This is me pointing out what the Mississippi Free Press said. And it's crumbling, it's attacking the very institutions that made America, and dare I say, Mississippi great. You know, I continue to say that Mississippi is an awesome state to live in, and the people over in Europe, especially Great Britain and England, because there is a difference between the two, can't handle the fact that if they were the 51st state, they would be the poorest state in the nation. They don't have the First Amendment right. They don't have the Second Amendment right. They don't have any of the rights that we have guaranteed to us here in the United States of America and Mississippi. And because of our Mississippi Constitution, we even have greater rights that are afforded to us. We don't practice them. We don't exercise them. I've been calling Ben Crum. I haven't heard anything from him since he said that he would get back in touch with me between Christmas and the first of the year. Trey's mother, Sophia Reed, told the Mississippi Free Press in an interview in April. They would not answer the phone for anybody. Now that the public's eye has moved on to more recent causes, the family says that they are left waiting for answers. Yep. That's how it works. That's how it works. And instead, we all get online and act bad and bold. People start insinuating things, drawing facts from fiction, starting to go ahead and make a movement out there. We're going to make a movement out of this. Meanwhile, Nolan Wells and his family, Nolan's gone. His friends are grieving. His family is grieving. And you've got people who don't know Adam coming in and just raising all sorts of cane. I watch it. I watch it on X. I watch when people like Clay Edwards come out and speak boldly on this. Officer Brandon Tatum come on and talk about it boldly, and the vile ignorance that are in some of those responses and in some of those posts show a complete lack of civility, that do not try to calm down the situation, but try to incite anger, create rage, and if you call it out, well, now you're a racist. Now, if you just simply, if could you imagine if I would have came on and not quoted this as the Mississippi Free Press? And honestly, that's what I should have done. Like I do when I quote Obama speaking on immigration, when I quote Hillary speaking on immigration or taxes, and I sit there and make it sound like Trump, and everybody gets mad. And then all of a sudden, I said, "Oh, this was a Barack Obama." Not only do I get the Democrats, but I get the crazy conservatives too, who were all for it until they found out who said it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, and that's not true. That's not all Republicans, but there are a few of them out there who just will not get with the program. We are just trying to figure it out. We want to know what really happened, said Trey's grandmother. Sharon Candy Tillman said, well, the official autopsy report said that the hanging was suicide. Evidence included suicidal text messages. And you know what? I'm not going to rehash everything that happened here with Brother Trey Reed. God bless him, rest his soul. Bless the Reed family. I couldn't even begin to imagine having to go through something like that. And I pray that no one listening to me ever has to go through it either. And if they have, I pray peace and healing over you and grace. But we have to come to a point to where we have to say that what these people are doing, what these organizations are doing by sowing division into a nation that passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And like so many of us here on the radio, and those of you who don't even agree with me all the time, have messaged and called in and said, you know, things were better back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Why? Could it be that we weren't having social media pipe this institutional hatred right into our brains 24/7, 365? Whether it be text, pictures, video. You've got AI out there now that's generating all this kind of content. AI is generating the content, ladies and gentlemen. I argue not only is it that we're being programmed by our smart devices. I use the word smart in quotations, but we've fallen away from God. If you ever have the opportunity to go and just talk to people about their spiritual and faith beliefs, it's amazing what you hear. Good morning, brother Dogfish. It's amazing what you hear and how disconnected we've become. And then we're wondering where our moral fabric is at, where our grounding is at. It's horrible. This story goes on. I could scroll, man, this is a big article. Scrolls down all the way. It's a big article. I'm not going to read it all, but I encourage everybody, and I don't think I've ever actually said this on the air before, but I'm saying you should go read the article at the Mississippi Free Press. Again, the article is called Trey Reed's Family Says Ben Crump Never Shared Final Independent Autopsy Results, Stopped Responding. That's shameful. That's disrespectful. That's not honoring the life of Trey Reed or respecting his family. At least have the fortitude to say, you know what? This is what we thought. This is what actually happened. We're sorry we can't do anything for you. Have a nice day. But you can't. You just completely stop contacting the family. And this is the same thing that Ben Crumb did with Mr. Nolan Wells. He announced the independent autopsy results at an NAACP event in Chicago. I can't imagine what the Wells family thought about that, but I digress. Look, you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYB. Second segment of the hour, sponsored by our friend Bruce and iGear Optical over there in Pearl, Mississippi. Right now, they're having a sale on back to school sales for your kids' eyeglasses. $99 for frames and glasses when you have a prescription. 1 year warranty on the frames and lenses includes custom fitting, hard eyeglass case, lens cleaning spray, and a cleaning cloth. I'll tell you what, I appreciate everything that Bruce did for me, and I can't tell you how good the customer service is. But that's what you come to expect at iGear Optical. You can go visit them at 2630 Highway 80 East in Pearl, Mississippi. You can give them a call at 601-203-2945. Brother Bruce, we appreciate you sponsoring the show. Help make it happen every day. I really appreciate it. And Bruce is blowing up the chat talking about all the Save America Act and stuff like that. But I got to follow the format of the show prep that I did. So we talked about Ben Crum and the Reverend Brett L. Sharpton in the first segment and how they abandoned the Reed family. But that's because we had a high trust society back in the day. We actually could trust the investigative services, especially the last 40 years. We could trust the police. And now we get things like this coming again from WLBT. Totally out of control. Yazoo City Mayor declares emergency, enforces curfew. And I didn't get to hear everything that Clay and his team said this morning. I was more listening to, quite frankly, the Arsenal transfer news. And I try to get a gist of what Clay says. I try to get a gist of what Chip says, what Lindsey Beckham says, what the radio strongman Kim Wade says. But we all have our own shows and do our own independent research and reporting on it. And what I want to say is I'm not going anywhere near Yazoo City. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even want to go there. They've had I did some research on this before I get into the article. Want to make sure that I got the right number here. In 2023, there were there was one murder in Yazoo City. In 2024, Charlene Bassett, 1, Jarvis Williams, 2, Wiltavius Knox, 3 were murdered, so three murders. In 2025, Andrew Jackson, 1, Devtavius Weekly, 2, Kenletta Burns, 3 murders. And in 2026, Frank Moore, 1, Anthony Walker, 2, and Taji Neelums, 3, and McKinley Sawyer, 4. So murders are on the rise in Yazoo. Forgive me. Oh my goodness. My Oxford folks are going to blow me up. Lafayette County is going to blow me up. Yazoo. I apologize. Don't hold it against me. Yazoo City Mayor Macklin Austin has declared a state of emergency and is enforcing a citywide curfew following the shooting there Wednesday night. The curfew will be in effect from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and will be in place at least through the weekend, the mayor said on a social media post. And this is, again, coming from WLBT. This isn't me just coming off the cuff. And, you know, I'm not a mayor, but I have been a highway commissioner and a county supervisor. And it is so painful when we lose people from our community. You know, when we lose a young kid because somebody wasn't paying attention at a school bus and whips around the school bus and wipes out a 4-year-old. It happened while I was there. We lost a sheriff's deputy in the line of duty. That was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And losing citizens like this is insane. Again, is the curfew going to help? In America, you know, we enjoy our freedom and independence. The murders, not just in Yazoo City, but in Jackson are high. I think we're at 53 now on the murder tracker. What is it that government's going to do to try to bring down crime? Is it going to be a mayor, a president, a congressman, a senator? Or is it going to be the people inside the community itself just saying, we've had enough of this hot garbage? We've had enough of it. Dare I say, is it when our pastors and other clergy members come into the community and say, "Look, we need to have a more active role in what's going on the streets. What's really happening?" Because I'm just telling you, as the conservative Christians retract themselves from the community, this liberalism takes over, this cancer takes over, this rot takes over, and it doesn't have anything to do with race. It all has to do on ideology and beliefs. When we've got people in our community leaders saying it's okay to go out and gangbang and go drink, smoke, do drugs, when we have our education system that doesn't talk about the importance of purity and chastity and real knowledge, and they worry about what your kid might feel like being today. I tell the story, haven't told it in a while, but I love this story where the kindergarten class in New York had a mirror on the wall and said, "What do you feel like being today?" And little Johnny said he wanted to be a dinosaur. And the teacher said, "That's okay for you to be a dinosaur today." "No, it's not. Just not like it's not okay for a little boy to think he's a little girl." When we have the news media that doesn't go ahead and factually report on what's really happening inside the community because they're afraid of how it might make them look, it's a problem. And we've got plenty of that to talk about too. Please take care of whatever business you need to take care of during these hours every day. But when 11 o'clock hits until Monday at 6 a.m. that morning, the curfew will still be live in effect. Now, I did hear Clay talk about how this was written. I don't think it's going to be starting at 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night and going till Sunday morning or Monday morning at 6 a.m. I think it's from 11 p.m. till 6 a.m. daily. And maybe the good mayor can go ahead and do that. But he doesn't care whether you live in Yazoo City or not. Don't even be rolling through Yazoo. And I appreciate it being an elected official, wanting to try to keep the neighborhood safe, but the people in the neighborhood have to want to be safe. And this to me just, I mean, I'm not going to be anywhere near Yazoo City. If I lived anywhere near Yazoo City, I would just stay away. But when you come out and say, "Do not be bold enough and ignorant enough to think that, and not enough to think and not take this curfew serious," he said. "Please understand and spread the word. Things are totally out of control in Yazoo City. We're fixing to put a stop to it." That that right there, in my opinion, is not going to help the situation. If you're going to put a curfew in place, put a curfew in place. I'm begging you. I'm begging the community, everybody who plans to come through Yazoo City in the next couple of days. This is a strict curfew, he said. No exceptions. No exceptions. My wife goes into labor at 2:30 in the morning. Am I going to get an exception then? What about the people who work in the middle of the night? Are I don't know if there's any 24/7 gas stations in Yazoo, but I know. Think about the economic impact that statement has alone. I mean, if you are somebody who's thinking about moving to Yazoo City or planning to put a business in Yazoo City, and you hear the mayor says things are totally out of control in Yazoo City, we're fixing to put a stop to it. Well, even if the curfew is 100% effective and the curfew works, does that mean that now you're going to put a curfew in 24/7, from 11 to 6 a.m., 365? I, I think this is what happens when we don't have a high trust society and when we don't rely on God to have our moral values. I know it's kind of tough. I know it's hard to have a radio station out there that and a radio host that really believes in biblical values and preaches it every time it gets on the station, and I know you don't like being preached at, but I can't figure out another reason to say why this happened. You are listening to The Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB, where we're moving and grooving. Again, the phone line isn't working, but the text line's open 601 879 5060. definitely take text, and also the chat is open. What's going on, brother Junk? People, I can't control the phone. Wish could. I know that there are people who want to talk. I know, and I know that there are people out there who would want to talk about this. I didn't plan it. It's just way it happens. So we continue to go on with the things that I find interesting and I want to talk about. And I want to talk about the war in Iran. And current oil prices is $85 a barrel. West Texas crude, $85 a barrel. And now you're starting to see as the world realigns itself with respect to the energy market, because you have Shia-backed militant Islamic groups raging war across the Middle East and Europe. You're seeing that it's really starting to affect China and Russia. Andy, how's it affecting Russia? Well, Russia gets a lot of its military hardware from Iran. It's drone manufacturing. And that's why the mullahs in Iran were just fine playing this tit for tat thing, because they were still making money off of Russia. But in the past few days, you've heard about the Ukrainian drone brigade. I'm that they're incredible. I'm not saying whether you like Ukraine or not, and as you know, I'm not a supporter of that. I get ticked off when I see senators wearing the American and Ukraine flag or the American and Israel flag. I don't want to get involved in that. But the Ukrainian drone brigade, whatever they're called, their special forces drone group, they're balling, and they are hitting Russia so hard that now Russia's having to come back and try to pump up Iran's military efforts. That's how they're getting, in my opinion, that's how they're getting their enhanced satellite resolution photography, is through Russia. China's now backing Iran openly. And this is the proxy warfare that's gone on for thousands of years. Countries might change the name, but the same thing still applies. And it's a biblical worldview. We can go in and do all the things we want to do. I will say, though, that when President Trump finally takes the cuffs off the United States military and we can go in and actually do what we need to do, you see everybody kind of tamper down a little bit and try to call for peace. But as soon as as soon as you let up, I'm just telling you, it's the culture. You give them an inch, they take a mile, literally. And I'm not sitting there trying to say, "See, I told you so," but the example of this is in Spain. I don't know if you've seen what's going on in Spain right now, but over 60,000 people breached Ceuta border before Spain, Morocco halt rush. And people are saying the Moroccan government actually helped funnel this invasion, and it is an invasion. But let me ask you this: how many people know that Spain is actually on the continent of Africa as well? That there's a town on the not the Horn of Africa, but in Africa. Great map. CBS News actually did some balling reporting here. Just to the east of Tangier, Algeria, is Morocco. And it's got a Spanish population of about 83,500 people, and the area is 18.5 kilometers squared, so very small. It's almost like the Israel. It's less than the size of Israel, but it's like a little Israel on the northern coast of Africa. And can you imagine 10 or 18.5 square kilometers? So let's just say 13 square miles. You have 83,500 people living, and then 60,000 people rush it. And there's videos all over X showing how this happens. And o our education system is so poor that we don't even know that Spain has a outpost in the continent of Africa. Spain sends over 25,000 migrants back to Morocco after deadly border rush. Spain's Ministry of the Interior said more than 25,000 migrants who arrived in the border of the tiny territory of Ceuta have been sent back to Morocco. More than 150 migrants are being removed from Ceuta per minute, the ministry says. Well, that's kind of doesn't really matter at that point. You've basically almost doubled the population in a day of that small little area. The statement came shortly after the president of Ceuta, Jesus Vivas, estimated that 60,000 immigrants had entered the enclave and said that at least 34 people were dead. The report that I'm getting says that 41 are dead right now. They were going through the gates. They were swimming around the border. The incident was triggered by wider political and diplomatic reactions across Europe, drawing calls for emergency border measures and sparking debate in the EU immigration or migration security. Spanish officials attributed the influx of human trafficking networks and exploiting a recent Supreme Court ruling that limits immediate return of migrants intercepted at sea. Again, high trust society. I'm so glad I went to Spain this past year. I am so glad I got to go see Spain while it was still nice because it's not anything like it used to be. And everybody used to think that Europe was so great, Western civilization, and a lot of the moral values did come from Europe. But back when it was a lot different, when its value set came from the good book and not from AI, and it wasn't liberalized per se. But we'll watch it. We'll keep track of this, and it's just another example. So when we start talking about Sharia law in the next couple of weeks and months ahead, as the Mississippi State Legislature comes back into office, we need to start working on this now so we don't have incidents like this happen. We're already invaded, and if the Spanish really got 25,000 people out of their country already, that's incredible. You have 60 people invade you one day, and you've already got almost half of them out the next day. That's incredible. It doesn't hurt that they have such a small area, and it's basically a coastal town, but my gosh, and there's so much more to this story. I gotta take this commercial break. You are listening to The Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. I love it. Love the song. Makes me feel happy playing FIFA with my kids. That was always a good time. Look, Spain is in an uproar right now. They are having all sorts of problems. Their prime minister is getting booed by the people. Their videos surfacing all over X and the internet where it's not censored, where you can just see the Moroccan officials unloading busloads and truckloads of military aged young men. It's not like these are real immigrants trying to flee Morocco for political reasons. This is an invasion. And when you have young military aged men go and pile into a small area like that, what do you think is going to happen? There are going to be fights. There's going to be fighting and looting. There are cars burning right now. And it's just absolutely insane. It the reports coming out are saying that, and listen to this. This is the great thing. Where have we heard this before? The country of Morocco does not recognize Quetta as a military territory. Instead, it calls it an occupied land, and that's coming from CBS News. Where do we hear that this same story gets retread over and over again? We get told the same thing over and over again. And the story's been updated to say that the majority look to be young men. They got rid of military. There were also families with women and children. Well, they didn't say that the first time I read that. But that's how it is in today's society. You know, they can sit there. That's the one thing I do miss about the printed word or even TV. You could record something and you'd have a real record of what was actually reported, but not anymore. I mean, look at Rand Paul's site, and I did save the testimony of Anthony Fauci over a 1,000-page PDF, but they're even retracting things out of that now. Things that they're saying are sensitive information that they shouldn't be out there. We're living in a digital world, and it's becoming more and more synthetic every day. It's getting more manipulated every day to where you're not sure what you can trust and what you can read anymore. Even when you go to CBSNews.com, ABCNews.com. Not that I'm saying you can actually believe what they post, but there is at least it was somewhere where you could start from a starting point, and they would say, okay, this is what happened. This is why it happened, and the why was always the big part there. Or if something wasn't reported there and it did happen, you could always say, okay, this is leftist liberal leaning bias. But we're not even there now. It's so frustrating to me. I'm sure it's frustrating to a lot of you too, because we work so hard to be educated and informed. And I'm saying this genuinely. I'm not trying to be facetious or antagonistic. There's so many people who are in the sensible middle who are trying to stay informed and have a competent worldview. We take joy and pleasure in being up to date on current events, both in Mississippi, in the United States, and around the world. And you got something like this that happens where they start changing the media and what people are reporting. But we'll stay on top of it here at the Andrew Gosser Show and at 1039 WYAB. In the next hour, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the number has risen, ladies and gentlemen. The number has risen to 15. Brother Dogfish was talking about how 23 governors came out and signed a letter. Talked about it yesterday. We're going to talk about it a little more today. There's all sorts of other news that I want to get to. Wouldn't you know it? Just as we're going to commercial break and my bumper music's playing, the computer decides to reboot. We'll be back in 7 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We are back for hour number 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble, where we are streaming on X, where we are streaming on YouTube. No one cares about Facebook, and you can hear us at WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and tell your neighbor, tell a friend, tell a Democrat about the show. We'd appreciate that. And follow me on X. I shared all the information that I had there talking about the topics last hour right there on X. So you can go ahead and trust what I'm saying, but verify it too. And the number, if you want to text the show today, is 601 879 5060. Phone line button not working. Sorry. 601 879 5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, yep, it's standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You are the saints. And I planted it, Apollos watered it, but it was God that gave the increase. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And I got this text coming in, first time texter. Brother Rob says, Mr. Gosser, I've heard you mentioned on your radio show several times that you expect a large increase in food prices in America next year, but I'm not clear on the cause. Thank you, Brother Rob. Greatly enjoy and appreciate your show. Brother Rob, I appreciate that. I'll get into that. The reason that food prices are going to skyrocket incredibly is because the cost of fertilizer this year was through the roof. And we as farmers had to make a decision whether or not we were going to fertilize or not. Now, I'm a regenerative farmer, so I don't really fertilize. I use my chickens as my fertilizer, mobile fertilizer units. And so my inputs were not the same as a lot of these soybean and corn farmers that use petroleum-based fertilizer to pump nitrogen into the ground to go ahead and cause the land to be more fertile. But what so many of us regenerative farmers say is that when you artificially inflate the nitrogen and put the petrochemicals on the ground, you're actually killing the ground. If you were to come onto my farm and dig down with a shovel, you would see worms and bugs and everything living in there. When you see these massive farms that we depend on for soybeans, for corn, for other products, that they're not going to have the yield this year. And like Brother Rick says, and he's right, when you go to the store and you're buying food, especially processed food, like I'm going to just say kerneled corn in a can or frozen, even frozen vegetables, most likely, high likelihood that was grown last year, and it's bagged and and stored. And like everybody talks about, it's so great that you live in America that you can eat strawberries in the wintertime. But unless it says that it was grown in Honduras, we love Honduras. But unless you know that that's been grown this year, it's most likely been put on ice per se, and they spray it down with a nitrogen gas that freeze locks it in the color in there of the strawberries. They do it with bananas too. Like I had a banana the other day, and I ate one bite of it and literally spit it out. And I love bananas, but I can't eat them anymore. I can taste the chemicals that they're putting on it. I mean, how many people actually wash a banana before they eat it? You're telling me you peel the banana, you wash the banana, and then you eat it? No, nobody does that. Nobody does that. So that's why the food prices are going to go through the roof. Not only that, but your beef, your cattle producers, your hog producers, next year it's going to be expensive. I know people who pasture raise cows, and they usually try to get the bottle babies on the cheap, and they're reporting prices as high as $1,000 for a calf. And Brother Rick can talk to you about that too. I tell him to call in, but line's down. But you can text. He's got the bat phone text number too. But I know that, and we have a great sponsor here on WYB that talks about going ahead and buying grass-fed Mississippi raised beef. Highly encourage people. I know it stinks when you sit there and you write a check for $1,800, $2,000, $2,200 for half a cow of grass-fed beef, but I'll tell you what, it's incredible. and we do a couple pigs, and then we just took 10 sheep down to or 10 lambs down to the processor the other day, and, that'll feed us for a good long time, and we might sell some of it off too. We always get the USDA package and approved slaughtering practices. You gotta make sure that happens. And that's why, when Rick was on the show this past Tuesday, I think it was, or maybe it was Wednesday, I can't remember now. Weeks just flying by. It was Wednesday. That's why we talked about, hey, loading up on beef, pork, and lamb, chickens. He's got like 150 broilers growing right now. Do you know that to raise a broiler chicken, you can do so for about $15 per bird. But if you're gonna go sell that bird, that's gonna be a $25 chicken. And don't tell me that the prices aren't gonna get there, because I go to the store and I look at the price of beef. I look at the price of pork, the price of lamb. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, the price, and it's just gonna get higher and higher and higher. And, then you throw in the fact all this craziness that's going on with the longhorn tick, where people are getting bit by these ticks and they can't digest and eat meat anymore. It's I know what's happening. It's had a massive outbreak up in New Hampshire and Connecticut. But I actually met a brother who over in England who actually got bit by one of those ticks, and he can't eat meat anymore. There's just craziness going on. So that's why we talk about food security, and there's food deserts, and there's many different ways to go ahead and protect yourself from this, whether it be a victory garden, a freedom garden, a backyard garden, whatever you want to call it. And it just gives you another secure way to go ahead and grow your own food. And there are crops that are so easy to grow, like cucumbers. I don't know if you like cucumbers or not, Brother Rob, but that's like one of my favorite things to eat. Cucumber salad. Tomatoes are so easy to grow. Sugar snap peas are really easy to grow. And if you like hot peppers and chilies, people say that they're difficult to grow. I've never had a problem growing them personally. And I'm not sure if you heard the show earlier this week when I was talking with Brother Rick, but we did an aquaponics setup growing peppers, and people thought it couldn't be done, and we ended up just raging in the ghost peppers. And me and a deputy shared a ghost pepper when he needed to go look at my aquaponics setup because someone thought that I was growing something other than ghost peppers, and he came by on a complaint. And I should have turned him away. People would tell me, "Andy, you're stupid. You should have made him go get a warrant." But I knew what it was. I knew it was political in nature. It's easy to go after the county supervisor, the highway commissioner. And we enjoyed a ghost pepper. And I'll tell you what, that stuff was hot, but it was good. I'm telling you what, if you're a chili head like me, you can actually eat a hot pepper and you can taste the fruitiness or the pepper taste or the sourness, depending on what it is. It's just not hot to be hot. And I'm still trying to figure out when we can get the Sweet Bee in studio and do the Hot Wings Challenge on air. And man, I'll tell you what, we've done it once, and we've actually done the bomb a couple times. If you ever seen the bomb, I mean that's just pure pain and misery. It's not even the hottest. It just tastes like liquid tar. It's just horrible taste. Ugh, ugh. But I think that would be a fun show. But that's why food prices are going to go up. It's because we're not going to have the output of our farmers, whether that be vegetables or animals next year. It's going to be reduced, and the prices are going to skyrocket. So things you can do now are start planning for your garden next year. And on the things that you can stock up on now that aren't perishable, be thinking about that. I mean, it wasn't. I don't know where you grew up or anything like that, Brother Rob, but we had a big pantry, big pantry. We were poor by every stretch of the imagination, but we had a room that I think was 14 by 8, and it had shelves on each side, and it was just packed full of stuff. If you can goods, I'd go do that. Like, right now, you can go to these vegetable stores or these vegetable stands on the side of the road, buy up all the tomatoes, buy up all the cucumbers, buy up all those fresh vegetables and can it, freeze dry it. You'd be surprised what you can get out of that. And then don't even start talking about the electricity prices that are about to go through the roof, and they will. Be because now all of a sudden you've got all these freezers and you think that you got all this fresh stuff that you're keeping refrigerated, and it's just gonna go even higher. I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the food security, and energy prices are gonna go up. I don't think the I Brother Rick and I disagree on the gas and diesel, and we'll see who's right on that. But again, you don't see us sitting here doing Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior body blows, raising from the dead Undertaker type maneuvers. But we'll see on that. But that's why. Well, what's the difference between gas and petroleum fertilizer? The petroleum fertilizer, a lot of that's done inside the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, the Arab states, and that all gets pumped out through the Straits of Hormuz. And don't think that China doesn't realize this. Don't think that Russia doesn't think about this. Don't think that they're not playing the long game too. We're all playing this game of chicken, no pun intended. And it's a really difficult nut to crack. Man, I'm using all sorts of puns. But the truth of the matter is that the prices will go up, and it won't be just like the cost of inflation, a cost of living inflation rate increase. It's going to be pretty big. And I don't mean to scare people or frighten people, but the more you know, the longer you have to prepare. I mean, it's not too soon now to go ahead and plant some fall vegetables to grow. And in the wintertime, that's when you can grow your lettuces, your broccolis, your cabbages, your greens. You can get a good winter crop out of them. And then if you really want to go for go for the gusto, you can always try hydroponics or aquaponics. I prefer aquaponics, which just basically means you use live fish in feed to fertilize the water instead of putting chemicals in the water. Hydroponics was really put forward by the pot smokers. Let's just call it like you see it. Aquaponics too. Aquaponics was a little bit more of the agriculture base doing it. It's a little bit more expensive to keep the water nutrified high enough to uh, continue to feed the plants. But once you get that down, man, I'll tell you what, vegetables taste great. One question I often get is, Andrew, is there like a fishy taste to your vegetables when you grow it in aquaponics? Absolutely not. And the strawberries, oh my goodness, aquaponic strawberries, don't get me started. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
I think at some point we need to make a similar decision about the vaccine. You can remain unvaccinated if you so choose, but if you want to be in public and potentially could be infecting others with a dangerous and sometimes fatal disease that's highly transmissible, then there's an obligation of society. I mean, I think you could have an opt out the way that France, for example, or Italy and other countries are doing, saying that.
Oh yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB, Free for All Friday. It's just topics that are coming in. Some of the texts are really good. Some of them are kind of insightful, and some of them I don't get necessarily why people. It bothers me. We talked about it yesterday about some of the senators who were cussing at Fauci, and I'm not saying that Fauci doesn't deserve a good cussing out. He deserves a lot more legally administered through illegal proceedings. But some of this stuff is just over the top, and I don't like that, and that's why we need to make sure that when we're going ahead and advocating for issues that are important to us, we do so respectfully, peacefully, like Scott Pressler says. He always puts peacefully at the end, and I say that too. And we've had some more additions to the senators who are refusing to go into recess. We're up to 15 now, and I just want to read their names real quick and see if you know them. Mike Lee of Utah, yep, know him. Rick Scott of Florida, yep, know him. Coach Tommy Tuberville, the only real coach in Alabama and the state of Alabama. I know he goes to Auburn, guys. Don't. Oh my gosh, I hate to get this hijacked by college football, but for the people who actually sit there and think that Tommy Tuberville actually coached at Alabama, no, I understand it was an Auburn guy, War Eagle, but he's the sitting state senator, and I believe he's running for governor of Alabama, and he's been a leader in this, so we call him the coach. Senator Jim Banks of Indiana, we've heard of him. Senator Ashley Moody of Florida, she came out. She actually came out on Fox News and did a great speaking job on that. And you notice the people who aren't for the Save America Act, they don't get on TV and talk about it, but they will write letters and opinion pieces to the Wall Street Journal, which is behind a paywall, like this guy from Idaho and Senator Coburn of Texas, who got primaried, and then he wonders why he gets ratioed because he's just anti-American. Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, yep. Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas. So now both of Kansas's um, senators are on that one. Ted Cruz of Texas, he knows what's up. Bill Hagerty of Tennessee. So both Tennessee senators. Kate Britt of Alabama, both Alabama senators. Todd Young of Illinois, so both Indiana senators. Eric Schmidt of Missouri, and the other senator who really grilled Fauci yesterday. He's still not on there, but we're working on him. Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania. Think about that. If if one senator from Pennsylvania is doing it, you might get Fetterman from Pennsylvania to get on there too. Darlene Graham, who took over for the late great Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, she's for it. And I know some people didn't like uh, Lindsey Graham, but I'm just not going to have that hate there. And Senator Jim Reich of Idaho. So you've got 15 senators now, but you know who's not on that list? The two great senators from the great state of Mississippi. Senator Wicker's still not on there. Senator Cindy Hyde Smith is still not on there. We hope to get them on there. They should be on there. Chad is starting to blow up. Brother Dogfish is checking in. Energy prices shouldn't be going up. Solar panel, LEDs, lighting, AI. He's got that silly look, smiley face going in there. Smart technology, wind power, advanced hydro technology. Well, all that's going to do, Brother Dogfish, is just make it to when they want to click off your grid, they can just send the signal and it just shuts you down if you're on the grid. But if you've got backup generators, if you've got a solar system that you can disconnect from the grid, your air conditioning is going to be just fine. You're going to be all right. And everybody knows that our power grid is bad, but I want to stay focused, Andy, stay focused on the Save America Act. There's so much out there that you can go and look up on the Save America Act. And I'm sitting here doing my daily check of Senator Cindy Hyde Smith and her latest and greatest thing. Let's see. This is saying it's 54 minutes ago. Maybe it's. I want to make sure I have the absolute. Yeah, 55 minutes ago, 56 minutes ago. She's meeting with people at her delegation or her office in Mississippi. Nothing on the Save America Act. She did go after Dr. Fauci pretty good. And I've got lots to say about Dr. Fauci. Maybe we'll roll into that next. Or we'll save it for the next segment. I'm not sure yet. Senator Wicker still hasn't posted anything since Lindsey Graham's funeral. And hey, that's his style. And the thing about it is what you're seeing is the people who are actively involved on X and on social media, what you're finding out is they are being taking flack from both sides. So for like the people who, not necessarily happy with Ted Cruz, but he comes out and supports Save America Act, he's getting approved for that. There's not any negative flack coming from supporting the Save America Act, because most people want the Save America Act. And I'm not going to be able to get to it today, but Harry Ensign came out with this 10 minutes of reasons why the Democrats are getting crushed. And 3 of them come back to the Save America Act because everybody wants the Save America Act. Dogfish says it's really sad that we cannot get our Senate to codify Trump's executive orders. It's pathetic. Isn't it, though? All these executive orders that have done so much good. And look, some of this stuff hasn't had the same effect that we hoped it would have. And some of it comes down to the fact that you need to have Congress and the Senate on board. And people are sitting there texting me about Cornyn and what a bad guy he is and how they can't understand how some senators can't get behind. Hey, we gave that up with the 17th Amendment. And I haven't heard any other talk shows talk about the 17th Amendment. But if you listen to the Andrew Gosser show, you are more informed, educated, and able to debate that. Even if you don't agree with it, you at least understand the other side's logic and behind it. And until we get rid of the 17th Amendment, I genuinely think that was the dagger that went through the heart of America. And that was way back in the early 1900s. It took over 100 years to manifest itself. Same with the income tax. I can't remember what amendment that was. Forgive me. But that was the one that was going to financially suck the will out of America. And the Senate got rid of the states' rights. And then I can't believe that they changed it from 4 years to 6 years. I still sit back there and think about that. But people sitting there complaining about the Save America Act, and the thing is good things are happening. There is a lot of good stuff that is happening with the Save America Act. People are getting found out whether or not they support the Save America Act or not. We're going to sit there and do it. And 2028 can't come soon enough. And you might not get rid of all of the people you want to get rid of, but there's going to be so many primaries. And I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but guess who's back into the political game, ladies and gentlemen? All these attacks on SpaceX and how they're driving down the stock price of it, which is awesome because Elon sold a bunch of it. The SpaceX employees sold a bunch of it at $150, and it's down to $111. You sell at $150, you buy at $110. The more wealth that you're creating, these people who are shorting SpaceX right now, it's just like they tried to do with Tesla. But Uncle Elon's getting back into the game, and it's promising $100 million for MAGA candidates. We know that John Thune is going to get a primary. We know that Lisa Murkowski of Alaska is going to get a primary. And some of these other senators who are coming out and against it, and I don't have that tab pulled up in front of me right now. I'm not even going to focus on it. But it's just one of the things. It's like people are coming out and saying that Kennedy from Louisiana is secretly not supporting the Save America Act. It makes you kind of wonder what's going on because people are saying that he's really more of a rhino. And I'm like, man, I think Senator Kennedy's been a breath of fresh air. He's got some great one-liners, but maybe that's his game. That's his shtick. But I'm telling you what, it's nothing to sneeze at. And the Democrats, I will say this about the Harry Enton piece that I'm just not going to be able to get into. The Democrats are broke. They had to mortgage their headquarters in D.C. And Kamala Harris still owes hundreds of millions of dollars. And the big time Democrat donors are not giving money to the party. Just like many Republicans, they'll give money to their state party and they'll give money to their candidates, but they're not giving money to the Senate Campaign Leadership Fund like they used to. They're not giving money to the Congressional Leadership Fund like they used to. The House Leadership Fund, the Senate Leadership Fund. And I've been asked to talk positively about it, but I mean, if this is just my opinion, you can vote with your dollars, right? Whether that's buying good food, buying poor food, you can vote with your dollars with your political donations too. I'd much rather give money to a candidate than I would a leadership fund, or I'd much rather give money to a PAC that I know is going to support what I support. But I also support the local GOP parties. I really do. I believe in it. I think that's the best way to get change locally. And I know that there's so many of you out there who don't agree with me, and that's okay. And we'll just continue to debate that here as we continue going down the road on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. We got to talk about Fauci.
Hey there, if Democrats lose to Trump yet again, these
You can run, but you cannot hide. From the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. We can never forget what these liberals did to the United States of America and to the world for that matter. Dr. Fauci has been pardoned by the President of the United States. I continue to say that his pardon is valid and legal, but he doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right because of the pardon. And the states can still go after him. It's just the feds can't go after him. And I was reading a story during the break saying that Florida is already flying up to DC to get all the stuff from the DOJ on Fauci. But do you guys remember Dr. Lena Wen? Do you remember? She said this about us. Never forget.
I think at some point we need to make a similar decision about the vaccine. You can remain unvaccinated if you so choose, but if you want to be in public and potentially could be infecting others with a dangerous and sometimes fatal disease that's highly transmissible, then there's an obligation of society. I mean, I think you could have an opt out the way that France, for example, or Italy and other countries are doing, saying that if you want to be in bars, restaurants, movie theaters, etc., either be vaccinated or have proof of a recent negative test. I hope that we move in that direction as a country here, because at the end of the day, I don't really understand why people have the choice. I think at some
She's a Chinese-born naturalized American citizen who immediately wanted to back down the unvaccinated during COVID. She was the former president of Planned Parenthood. She's a purveyor of death. And when we find things like this, we need to make sure that we repost them on X. Like you can go to my X account right now and take this video and share it with your friends. Dr. Fauci is somebody who needs to be held accountable. And that's why when yesterday I had a lot of comments, people saying that the Joseph Mengele was a bridge too far comparison was a bridge too far. No, it's not. It is not. It is not a bridge too far. If anything, it makes Mengele look like a preschooler. I'm sitting there and I go back during my timeline and I think got all these videos of grandparents saying goodbye to their grandkids through a plastic plexiglass window. Are we so short-sighted that we can't remember what we went through? And now they're complaining that Fauci is getting threats. I don't think he should get threats. But these preemptive pardons, I mean, that's something else that's never happened before that Biden just completely crossed the line over, were these preemptive pardons. 10-year pardon for Dr. Fauci from 2014 to 2024. And now all this new research is coming out of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, about the potential dangers of the vaccination. You know, I had 2 people text me about the Died Suddenly movie and ask me for the links. And I'd be curious to see what they think about it. I know they can't take phone call today because line not working, but I'd really like to know. You got my text number. Hit me up. I'd like to know. Have you seen the Died Suddenly movie? I would not watch it with young kids. But if you've got a teenager and they're about ready to go step into the big boy and big girl world, Died Suddenly is definitely on the list. It'll definitely make kids think twice about what they're putting into their bodies. Literally. Drugs are bad, okay? These mRNA vaccinations, it's a brand new world. It's the wild, wild west. As with intelligence comes great responsibility. With wisdom comes great responsibility. Wisdom means nothing if it's not acted upon. Wisdom is glorified in all of her works. We've got a lot of intelligence. We've got a lot of wisdom that we can act upon. But are we acting upon it? No. We're getting things like prosecutorial discretion, not prosecuting people who deserve to be prosecuted. I mean, between Dr. Fauci and the Bill Gates Foundation, I mean, my goodness gracious. And here's the thing that's slowly been whittled away that people just don't seem to care about anymore, but I still care about it. The Epstein files. No one will even talk about that anymore. And I just my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, it's just my opinion, but I think anytime that we sacrifice our kids to the unholy altar of child sacrifice, whether that be the murder or just the sexual exploitation and trafficking, when we let these people off the hook, God's not happy with that. He's really not. Dr. And these senators, I know that they got kind of stifled a little bit with him pleading the fifth on all that, and I don't want to go rehash all of that again. But I think it's up to us as citizens to let our elected officials know that this is something that we're not forgetting, that we do need to hold accountable to, not just with our vote, but our civic duty to go out there and let them know that we don't appreciate what they're doing. I'm telling you what. Last thing I want to talk about, and ABC did talk about this, but I did have this saved, but I was going to attack it a different way. A state sues Kalshi, saying its prediction markets are illegal gambling. Do you think Kalshi is illegal gambling? On Friday, a certain attorney general sued Kalshi, alleging that the prediction market platform operates as an unlicensed gambling business, offering unauthorized wages on sports, elections, and cultural events. You notice how these pollsters now are getting outdone by the Kalshi markets. And personally, I think that it does need to be looked at. But if you knew that that attorney general was Letitia James of New York, does that make you feel a little bit differently about it now? Does your opinion get changed because it's a D that's prosecuting this? Just like the Mississippi Free Press and Mississippi Today, they're right every once in a while, and when they are, you got to go for it. Personally, I don't think you can actually control gambling because human nature. It's just human nature to gamble, and Americans, we really appreciate risk. I mean, that's what makes America so great is, I mean, watching the Europeans come over here during the World Cup, they talked about how we're not afraid of risk, where they're much more fearful of risk. So we're not afraid to risk, but when you've got the ability to go ahead and get a Kalshi account at 18 and start wagering, I don't know what else to call it. I'm not sure what else to call it. Prediction market. What is it when you put some money on predictions of space aliens coming down, being seen on Earth? You know, you can put a bet on that. You can put a bet on whether or not President Trump is going to try to run for a third term. You can put a bet on that. You might not get the greatest odds, but again, it talks about all this stuff. I get links to it and advertisements from it all the time about sports. Will Arsenal get Vinicius Jr.? I can put a wager on that if I want to. I don't. I don't even have the app, but I get, the spam email is sometimes you go in there, see who's spamming you. Sometimes do not click on any of the links, ladies and gentlemen. Do not click on any of the links. You don't want none of that. But it's interesting to see. I still get old political solicitations from Illinois, and I've unsubscribed from them a bunch of times. It's absolutely infuriating, but I'm interested to see what happens with good old Kalshi. And there are other prediction platforms too. And I'm not saying that I want them to have them sued into oblivion, but I do think, again, with great intelligence, with great wisdom comes great responsibility. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? How many men and women have personal stories about that? But I digress. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're going to take our last commercial break. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in on this Free for All Friday. It was a good show. I had a good time talking. Hopefully, the maintenance man gets in here, the phone guy gets in here, and get the phone situation tore up. I can see people calling in, but when I go to hit the button, it just didn't work. And there's a sign on it that says it's not working now. So, but I appreciate y'all. I really do. And we are back here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039. I want to thank everybody who tuned into the chat today. I want to thank everybody who texted me today, even the comments I couldn't read on there. And I did try to take some of your comments and just kind of use them, but I'm not going to give you any justification or point you out and give you a shout out when you can't use a word that doesn't begin with a or a 4-letter word. You got to be able to use something better. And that's all I got to say about that. I did get this sent from Kingfish, and I did want to talk about this in the Nolan Wells segment that we led off the show with. Carlos Moore disbarred, kicked off the bench. Carlos Moore. Brother Kingfish came out with a story yesterday, and basically he's grandstanding off of poor Nolan Wells. He's basically where Ben Crum and the irreverend Al Sharpton left off. He's picking up the baton and running with it. And it's brutal. You can go to Kingfish's website, and he's got a link to the YouTube video. I'm not going to click on that. And he does call him a clown. I don't think that a clown would take umbrage with being compared to Carlos more. Clown's much more reputable and much more trustworthy. It's so sad to me when I continue to see this stuff. And these are the people who are pointing this out to me are people who are just wanting their community back. Ocean Springs wants their community back. I know that Yazoo City wants their community back. But I will continue to say this, and I'm never going to run away from it. Is that we've got to make our way back to get to the cross. And I wanted to say this during my Iraq segment because I believe it's permanent and important. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. The images that we're seeing coming across our TV screens, our computer screens, our cellular devices, our tablets. I mean, watching these busloads and truckloads of young military men just being poured into Spain, it's crazy. And then I found out that in the 70s, Morocco invaded Spain again. They called it the Green Run. And Mario Narfal has a great post on X. You can read it. I'll paraphrase it. But Morocco did the same thing back in the mid-70s, and they took a bunch of land from Spain, and Spain retreated within 3 days and ceded a bunch of land. Isn't that an invasion and a war? You know, didn't we learn this in World War II? Even if you didn't want to be at war with them, they could still be at war with you. You could be minding your own business, but if there's a bully out there and he wants to bully you, you're going to get bullied. It is Fridays, ladies and gentlemen. And the Sweet Bee is in the Far East. She's in the great country of Japan. She's having the time of her life. She got to see Mount Fuji. She went by a bakery that we will follow on YouTube, and she got to get some bread there. It's awesome when you live a life where you're chasing God and being productive. All sorts of different opportunities pop up, and that's what happened with this Japan trip. And I just want to say I love you, Sweet Bee. I miss you. Get home soon. Get home safely. No more earthquakes. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had something to do with your spouse this weekend, plan it. Men, go get some flowers. Ladies, maybe cook a dinner, special dinner. Do something special. Until then, take care, everybody. Be blessed. Yes, and amen. Amen, ladies and gentlemen.